What's up, guys? It's me, TXC Bands, and I'm back with another One Piece chapter review. This week we got chapter 1098 of One Piece titled The Birth of Bonnie. And so I was wondering last video at the end of it, where is Bonnie in all of this? But we get our answer in this chapter, but that answer isn't the nicest of answers. I'll talk about the weird birth of Bonnie when we get to it. But this chapter continues along with Bartholomew Kuma's backstory from where we left off last chapter, where Ginny got kidnapped, and it's just overall such a tragic backstory. If it's not already considered one of the saddest backstories in One Piece, then I think this chapter probably affirms its spot. So let's jump right into the chapter from the start. With the cover page this week, I'll talk about the situation with Oda that you might have heard about. The cover, it's just a fan request, again, as usual. It's Brook playing an electric guitar with an electric eel in the background, so it's actually pretty sick. But there's a note on it by Oda saying that sorry that this chapter's manuscript was unfinished. So this doesn't mean that the chapter's incomplete. Rather, just some of the art isn't up to the standard for One Piece, and this makes me feel bad for hoping for no breaks every week, because clearly Oda needs breaks to keep this story going. And Oda, like most mangakas in Japan, are just worked to the bone, and it's not good for anyone. So anyway, we got to start the chapter now. We begin in Baltigo, where there's a request for backup by some revolutionary in the South Blue. And Ivankov can't go because he's dealing with the Goa Kingdom. And Kuma, he volunteers himself to go. So Kuma goes to this island in the south where we see him with a stern look on his face because he's not the same anymore now that Ginny has been captured. Kuma is completely devastated by the kidnapping of Ginny, and it makes sense because she was his companion throughout most of his life so far. And we're also told here that Ginny was actually taken by celestial dragons because one of them wanted her as his bride, and we know that these celestial dragons just get whatever they want. But it's wrong to call her a bride though, because realistically she was just a slave for this celestial dragon. But Kuma's aggravation causes him to fight stronger and harder than ever, leading to the victory on the island, which is a good thing, but his emotional state just isn't there. And the island flies the Revolutionary Army flag, and Kuma returns home on a ship. And this is where we learn that it has been 2 years since Ginny was kidnapped by the Celestial Dragons. So he's had a lot of time to deal with the grief that came about from it. And after Kuma returns to Baltigo for a while, they miraculously get a call from Ginny. And Ginny made it to the surface and made this call because she was thrown away by the Celestial Dragons and Mary Joa. And the reason they discarded her is because she caught an illness that turned her skin into blue scales. And many theorists think that this disease that's described here was spread through a celestial dragon and a human having a sexual relationship, which is extremely messed up considering the fact that Ginny would not have been consenting to anything. She was just a slave for the celestial dragon. And this is another example of Oda exploring darker themes without straight up saying it, because One Piece is supposed to be a family-friendly story. Ginny knows that this disease will eventually kill her too, so this call to Baltigo is a goodbye to Dragon, Ivankov, and especially Kuma. Kuma desperately begs for her to tell him where she is so they could see her in person before she dies, but he teleports away because he kind of knows where she is. She would, of course, go to the church in Sorbet Kingdom that they lived in for so long. But just after he leaves, Ginny, not knowing that Kuma already left, tells Kuma across the phone call that she loves him. And these are her last words to him that he doesn't even get to hear. At the Sorbet Kingdom, he lands at the church where the villagers tell him that Ginny has unfortunately already passed away. And when Ginny went into the sunlight, it made her skin harden and turn blue because of the disease that she has. And these blemishes, they cover her entire body. Kuma then cries when he remembers his life that he spent with Ginny, and he cradles her body in his arms. He never got to actually get the chance to settle down and have a family with her like they wanted to and like they talked about last chapter. And Ginny, she made the long trip from Mary Joa to Sorbet Kingdom in the sunlight for one reason: to get her infant daughter, Bonnie, to safety. This baby is the daughter of the celestial dragon that made Ginny his wife forcibly, which is, again, just very messed up. But some people think that the father of Bonnie is Saint Saturn because of the way that Ginny got the disease, since we learned that he is like an eldritch deity, like who's like thousands of years old. So intercourse with a human probably wouldn't work well. And this would also explain the fact that Bonnie was super angry at Saturn when they came across each other on Egghead Island. Kuma, like the good man that he is here, takes the baby Bonnie in his arms and swears that he will raise her well, even though that's not even his child, but he'll treat her like family. I'll note here that it confirms that Bonnie is merely 12 years old in the current story, and she was 10 years old in Sabaody pre-time skip. Of course, she ages herself up to fit in with the others, but it's still impressive that she has come so far, becoming part of the worst generation with just the mind of a child still. And before we end the sad part of the chapter here, we see a single panel of Kuma at Ginny's grave. Now the chapter moves on from Ginny, and we learn all about Bonnie's childhood with Kuma. The villagers note that Kuma is too big and too strong because of his buccaneer genes to be caring for Bonnie. So he learns to be gentle with her. And baby Bonnie drinks like a lot of milk, which is similar to how Ginny, her mother, would just eat a lot of food all the time. And that makes Kuma cry tears of joy. And the next couple pages are a mixture of cute panels with Kuma taking care of Bonnie and panels of Kuma fighting in the revolution, which these two starkly oppose each other. We get to see both sides of Kuma in these pages. And we even are treated to a panel with young Sabo in it to tie in this story to the main One Piece storyline. But after all that happiness, things start to get sad again, unfortunately. Kuma boards up all of his windows in the church because Bonnie started to grow a blue stone under her eye, just like the disease that her mother Ginny had and died of. The two friends from Kuma's childhood quickly rush to get a doctor because this could be bad for Bonnie. The doctors that they get are very unreliable and they're unable to really treat her. One of the doctors suggests going outside with Bonnie to test out if the sun is what's at fault here, which is just stupid for a doctor to do. And the other doctor mentions the white lead disease. If you remember, that's the disease from Law's backstory, but this disease is not that. Kuma goes to his trusted companions next, Dragon and Ivankov, and Dragon promises to try his best to reach all over the world in search of a doctor that could cure Bonnie. And this is something that only he, as the leader of the Revolutionary Army, is capable of. And now we cut to when Bonnie is 5 years old, so 7 years before the present, and other kids in town treat Bonnie like a vampire because she's unable to even leave her house. Bonnie sticks up the middle finger at them, which is funny, but in her situation, it's still sad because she has to live alone and has no friends. And Kuma is scared when Bonnie even goes close to the doorway to threaten those kids, showing how protective Kuma is of Bonnie because he already has lost all of his loved ones up to this point. Bonnie gets sad that the kids made fun of her because of the stones on her face, but Kuma cheers her up by saying that he loves the pretty jewels that she has on her face. And this is probably where her full name, Jewelry Bonnie, comes from. The two of them then play a game where they talk about all the wonderful places in the world that they want to see. Since Bonnie can't leave the house, she says she wants to go to the Sky Islands because you might be able to see the sun god Nika. And he would probably be up there because it's so high up in the sky, close to the sun. And Kuma, again, like usual, dances like the sun god, passing his adoration of Nika over to his daughter Bonnie. But this chapter keeps going back and forth from good stuff to bad stuff because now a more qualified doctor comes in to examine Bonnie, and this man concludes that Bonnie's disease is known as Sapphire Scale. It's an uncurable disease, and he also tells Kuma the tragic news that the disease will actually kill her soon without even going outside in only just 5 years. And Kuma says aloud, it'll all be over by her 10th birthday, which is just heartbreaking. But it only gets worse because when Kuma sees Bonnie on the other side of the doorway, he finds out that she has been eavesdropping on him this entire time. But in a misunderstanding, she thinks that she will be cured by time she's 10, not that she'll die by time she's 10. So Kuma is left with no other option but to affirm her belief that she will be cured soon. But one day, he's inevitably going to have to tell her that she's going to die, which is just tragic. And we move on to the last few panels of the chapter where we go one more year into the future, so 6 years before the present, where there's a nightmare in the Sorbet Kingdom. The villagers go to Kuma saying that the evil and monstrous King Bekari from last chapter has returned to the island after 16 years in order to burn the people's houses for revenge. And that's the end of the chapter. The implication here is that with King Bekari's return, his tyranny that he shows on the island will somehow be misconstrued into the tyranny of Kuma. Kuma is clearly not a tyrannous man, but that is his reputation, so I think the government told the world that Kuma did these evil things to Sorbet Kingdom, which gave him that reputation. And overall, I think Kuma has one of the worst backstories in One Piece, and it's not even over yet in this chapter because he still hasn't become a cyborg, which is just a horrible thing to think about. And Ginny's situation is just hard to talk about because of the implication that she was a sex slave for a celestial dragon. And then Bonnie's situation is also tragic because she's on track of dying soon, and no child should die before they even reach adulthood. Obviously, Bonnie is currently alive in the current One Piece story, but how was she healed? I'm guessing that Kuma made a deal with the government at the cost of his humanity to save his daughter, and we'll probably cover that in like the next chapter or something. And this chapter also continues with the theme of One Piece that you don't have to be blood to be family, because Kuma and Bonnie are for sure family. After all they've been through, Kuma raised Bonnie just like her father. And it's nice to see all the good times that Kuma and Bonnie have in this chapter, but it sucks that we have to see the bad times too, which are prevalent in Kuma's backstory. And next week there will be a break, which I'm content with because clearly Oda needs these breaks in order to keep making One Piece as great as it is. and I encourage him to just keep going on break as much as he needs because his health is what's important. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to show your support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.